2002 through 2007 Nissan Murano high pressure power steering hose replacement. I'm Brian Eslick from How To Automotive. I'm going to walk you through the steps of replacing that. Here are the parts I'm going to be using on this Nissan Murano. I'll link these up in the description of the video. That way if you need to pick those up, you can find those there. I will also replace the power steering pressure sensor. I'm going to get started by popping the power steering cap off the reservoir here, and I'm going to suck out all the fluid. I have a fluid extracting tool that I'm going to use, but you can use a turkey baster. It works just great. This helps reduce the amount of mess that's made when we work on the system here. So I'm going to demonstrate with the new hose here, and that's to get to the top clamp that holds the hose on. The clamp is basically in the center of the hose right here. So it wraps around like this. And then that clamp is going to be right here on the back side of the intake here. And that's going to be the hardest part of the job to get to. You can't see it from underneath. So the hose starts down low, loops up towards the top of the car, and then loops back down towards the bottom. And there's a clamp in the middle that we need to get to. So there's going to be a 12mm bolt that we need to get to right about here. And it's going to be a blind, you can't see a thing, so you're just going to do it all by feel. I'll try to stick the camera back here to see if we can see this. So I'm going to get the camera back here. And as you can see, right, the bracket is right about here. There's a 10mm bolt that it's part of the bracket too, but we're not going to remove this. We're going to remove the 12mm that's a little further in. To get that bolt off, I'm going to use a 12mm ratcheting wrench. So off camera, I went ahead and took out that 10mm bolt, but it didn't really help me get it out. So you just need to remove the 12mm bolt, like I was saying, that's a little further in. So it's right to the right of the where the 10mm bolt was. So I'm able to get my 12mm ratcheting wrench right onto the bolt right here. And then you'll just crack it free and you'll spin the bolt out. Now that we got the top portion of the hose unbolted, we need to rack the vehicle up and get it in the air. If you're doing this at home, you're going to need to jack the front of the vehicle up as high as you can and use floor jacks and jack stands. And if you turn the wheel to the left, that gives you plenty of access to get in here. And you can see the bottom portion of the power steering hose right there on the pump. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to unplug the power steering pressure sensor right here. You just squeeze the tab and pull the sensor off. Once you get the pressure sensor unplugged, the next step is we're going to need to remove this 24mm banjo bolt right here. You can get to the bolt two ways, one with a long extension and a 24mm socket, or the way I'm going to actually do it is with a 24mm wrench on the side through the side here, and you just crack it free and spin the bolt out. So after removing the banjo bolt, we're just going to set this aside for now. Now we're going to move over towards the driver's side of the car and look up towards the rack and pinion. Just above the sway bar, there's going to be a little bracket holding the power steering hose down with two bolts, two 10mm. You're going to remove those two. And then we're going to remove the main fitting here that bolts into the rack and pinion. It's a 14mm socket or wrench, and you're going to unbolt those two. And then we're going to pull the old hose out of the vehicle. And I pulled the hose out towards the driver's side of the vehicle through the hole right here. So now I'm going to take my new hose and my old hose and lay them out side by side. And what we need to do is transfer over the brackets that held it on and over to the new hose. So we'll transfer the two brackets over. And also we're going to install our new high pressure power steering sensor into the line. So the bracket's going to have a 10mm bolt that you're going to take off. And then once you take it off, you just flare it open like this. And then you just kind of measure it and eyeball it and transfer it right over to the new part. Once you have the bracket transferred over to the new hose, we're going to leave the 10mm bolt loose. Just start it by hand. That way when we go to mount it, it has play to move back and forth to find the alignment holes. Now you can go ahead and remove the second bracket that's holding it on. You'll just unbolt the 10mm bolt, and then you can flip it over and then pry it apart, and then you can transfer it over to your new part and put it on. And the same as the other one, you'll start the bolt but leave it loose. That way you can maneuver it back and forth, up or down, that to start the bolts when it's in the vehicle. You also can go ahead and reinstall the power steering pressure sensor. To prep the banjo bolt, it's going to put a new copper washer on, slide the bolt through, and then on the opposite side you'll put another new copper washer on. So when it's complete, it's going to look like this. Banjo bolt, copper washer, and then you're going to put it through the power steering hose and then copper washer. Now you're ready to reinstall the hose back into the vehicle. So you're going to start the banjo bolt in first, and then loop it around, and then start the bracket below, and then start the fitting. So you'll feed it in like this. You can go ahead and take the banjo bolt out when you're doing this and feed it in like this, and then you make that giant loop where it goes up towards the top of the car. And then you can go ahead and start the two 10mm bolts on the bracket here and here. So now what I'm going to do is put the O-ring on right here, and it comes with the kit. So you'll put the O-ring on the tip like this, and then you'll swing it over and into the place where it mounts into the rack and pinion, and screw it in and tighten it up. Now we're going to come back over towards the passenger side, and we're going to use a 24mm wrench and a 14mm wrench, and we're going to tighten the bolt in the center of the hose. It's a two-piece hose on the replacement part, and you're going to go ahead and tighten that bolt up. Now we can take the banjo bolt and the two copper washers and go ahead and install that onto the power steering pump right here like this. So once you get the banjo bolt started through the power steering hose and into the power steering pump, we're just going to run it in by hand, and we'll lower the vehicle back down and snug it up later. Now you're going to lower the vehicle back down, and we're going to reach around back and start the bracket in the back here. So you're going to position the bracket into place like this, and then you're going to just take the new bolt and carefully slide it into the hole. This is can be quite difficult. You know, it's not a lot of space back here, and you slide it in like this. So you slide it in from behind like this. Just take your time. Now you can line up the bracket with the port on the back of the intake here, and you can start the bolt. Once you get it started, you can just use your ratcheting wrench and tighten it up. If you were struggling with that because there's not a lot of room back there, say if you have thicker hands or bigger hands and you can't get back there, you can take this whole cowling section off with the wiper blade motor and all that. You can take that all apart, and you'll have a lot more room back there, but it's a lot more work to take it apart. So now that bracket's tight, we need to tighten up the 10mm bolt. So we'll just reach around back with our little extension and a 10mm socket and a wobbly ratchet, a flex head ratchet, and you can get back there and tighten up the 10mm bolt on the bracket. Now from back underneath, we're going to tighten up the banjo bolt, and the spec on it is only about 6 foot-pounds of torque, but I'm just going to put my wrench on there and just tighten it until it's snug, maybe a quarter turn more. You don't want to over tighten it. Then you want to make sure that the electrical connector for the pressure sensor is plugged in. Now you can go ahead and tighten the two 10mm mounting bracket bolts right there. Make sure they're secure. And then we'll make sure that the fitting that goes into the rack and pinion is secure. Now we can install Nissan approved power steering fluid into the reservoir and start the vehicle. I like to fill it all the way to the top, start the vehicle, and the level will drop as it sucks it into the line and then back into the rack and pinion. Then you readjust your fluid by topping it off. If it's overfull, you can suck a little bit out. And that'll complete the job of replacing the high pressure power steering hose on a 2002 through 2007 Nissan Murano. I'm Brian Essick from How To Automotive. I'd like to thank you guys for watching my videos, encourage you to subscribe, invite you to head over to the howtoautomotive.com website for more valuable videos like this, and also to remind you that I will link up the parts in the description of the video. That way if you need to pick any of that up, you can find it there. Thank you again for watching.